All right, so thank you everyone for joining us. We are officially here with Janeé Jackson-Doering and friends, a number of youth services librarians from around the state today, and we are here to chat about early literacy, Storytime Showcase. So I'm going to turn it over to my youth services colleague, Janeé, who will take us through some of this. Just so you guys know, because we have a bunch of panelists, I'm going to be doing the screen sharing today, there might just be a little stops and starts, but try to keep things moving as much as we can. And Janeé, I'll let you take it over.
All right. Hi, everybody. I hope you guys are someplace safe, cozy, having some hot chocolate, chilling in the office. I hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to Storytime Showcase. We have an excellent array of items for you to learn and enjoy today. Sam, if you could go to the next screen. That is my contact information for those who don't know me. My name is Janeé Jackson-Doering. I'm the Youth Services Consultant for the State Library of Iowa. I have survived my first month. Yay! I'm super duper excited. That's a picture of me with Clifford at my old library that I used to work at, the Southside Library. My contact info is there. And just because it was such a snowy day today, it reminded me of a fun activity that I used to do with the kids. This picture below is of a tub from Lakeshore Learning, and I grabbed some measuring cups and I went outside and scooped up the fresh snow. No yellow snow, I promise. We put snow into a bin, and then I put some food coloring in water into the spray bottles to help the kids with their fine motor skills. And we got to build vocabulary. We're talking about the snow. Is it cold? Is it slimy? Is it slushy? That was a fun activity. It's one of those activities I miss. So maybe it'll give you some inspiration today. Hopefully this whole webinar will give you lots of fun ideas and storytime inspiration. Just real quickly, we've got some upcoming events. Summer Reading 2023, we are having online workshops, 2 at your convenience. The first one is Thursday, December 8th from 10 a.m. to noon. The second one is Tuesday, December 13th from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock p.m. We'll go over some of the crafts, best practices, just different types of things that you can do for your community this summer. Also, we are bringing back the Check It Out Book Talk series. That is Wednesday, November 30th for the first one. The second one is Tuesday, December 27th, and both of those times are 11 a.m. to noon. If you are interested, you can register on Iowa Learns. So I hope to see you guys there. And today, we have some wonderful panelists on board today. First of all, you know who I am, but also we have Phyllis Peter from Newton Public Library. We have Keri Weston-Stoll from Waukee Public Library, Cassi Elton from Antelope Public Library, and Rebekah Hosford from Cedar Falls Public Library. And our plan today, we are going to cover each component of the 5 early literacy skills and how you can incorporate them into your story times. And if we have time, as much as we can, we will answer questions from attendees. And I hope I'm not speaking too fast, so please pardon me. Please say in the chat, oh my gosh, you're speaking too fast. Please let me know, because I really want to make sure you guys get all of the information, because this is some awesome things we are sharing. So the 5 early literacy skills: talk, sing, read, write, and play. These are skills that we incorporate every day when we're doing story times. These are skills that are needed so that way our children can be ready to read when they hit kindergarten. And I'll have Sam turn to the next slide. So talking. So I'm going to cover talk just really, really quickly. Talk is important because children are learning the sounds of words. They are learning letter sounds, letter recognition. When you talk with your children during story time, we're engaging them in conversations. So if I'm reading Monkey and Me or the pigeon, Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus, you're asking questions like, what's going to happen next? You're building prediction skills so that way the kids can think and have that ability to engage in conversations with you. You're building narrative skills. How many times have you guys had a story time and the children have heard that story and then they go home and they tell it to their parents or their caregivers? They're retelling those skills, those stories from you. They're learning and building skills, narrative skills, so that way they can tell those stories at home. And when you talk, you're increasing their vocabulary. They're learning different types of words, different types of language. So I just put together a little slide to show books that encourage talking and making predictions. These are books that I have used during story time, and they are my favorites. And hopefully, I hope they will become yours too. I like to choose interactive picture books that get the kids talking or thinking. Bark George is my favorite because they're expecting the dog to bark, but dog doesn't bark. He says meow or woof. He says any other sound than arf. It's a wonderful book, and the kids are encouraged to say, dogs go arf. And of course, Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus. It's one of my favorites because they have to yell, no, don't drive that bus, don't drive that bus. One of my favorites by Mo Willems, Monkey and Me by Emily Gravett. This is one that I really, really love because it's just so adorable. It's one of my favorites. I'm just going to read a little snippet real quick. Can you guys see that okay? But it says, monkey and me, monkey and me, monkey and me. We went to see. We went to see some. And then I asked, what do you think that they're going to see? A dog, a cat. You know how children are. They like to yell, a moose. But it's so fun because it gets the kids thinking, and then they want to yell out the answer. And Don't Push the Button is one of my favorites. Don't forget, pop-up books are your friend. Pop-up books are so cool. This is one of my favorites, Dear Zoo. They have to see what animals are hiding behind the cages and guess. And also select books that encourage, let me pull this up real quick, encourage children to create sounds, especially The Baby Goes Beep. I don't know if you've ever heard of this board book, The Baby Goes Beep, but the children in this story have to make the sounds. So the baby goes beep. The baby goes beep, 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 beep. The baby goes boom. The baby goes boom, 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 boom. It's an awesome book because the children are learning sounds and they're learning how to form words. When children are 2 months old, they're learning vowel sounds. So goo, ah, ooh. So making those sounds are helping them build those skills to read. And I don't know if you've ever heard the picture book Moo. Has anybody heard the picture book Moo? Phyllis is saying yes. Moo is one of my favorites because throughout the whole story, this cow just wants to drive this car, and the cow doesn't talk like a human. The cow just says moo, literally throughout the story. Moo, 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 moo. So I love stories that encourage children to build sounds and learning sounds. Okay, this is one of my favorite games in the world. So this is the ABC Wiggle Worm game. And I like to have story time asides. When you're giving early literacy tips during story time, I like to have it as a conversation. So this is a great way to do that. So with the ABC Wiggle Worm game, what you do, you have flashcards. They have all 26 letters of the alphabet, and you cut them up, and inside you also cut out these wiggle worms. So you'll hold up each letter of the alphabet, and the children have to guess what letter they see. But if they see a wiggle worm, they have to wiggle. One of my favorite games that I used to play with children for Head Start when I was a Head Start preschool teacher. It's super duper fun because the kids get the wiggles out. It teaches them letter recognition, print awareness. It's a very fun game to play. And they're learning the sounds of the letters. And plus, this is an easy game that you can also do, or you can do after story time or during story time. And caregivers, I tell them they can do this at home. They can make ABC sheets and have the children draw wiggle worms, and that way they can duplicate the game at home. So they're reinforcing those letter sounds, the print awareness. So that's one story time aside that I'd like to have.
And we will be sending out the printables for that. Is that right, Janeé? That's one of our handouts. So you can
Yes.
take those. We'll put them in Iowa Learns afterwards, so you can print them out, laminate them, and use those. So just as an aside.
The second item that I like to do, I'm going to move my bar down real quick. The second item is the ABC Fishing for Letters activity. I don't know, have you guys ever seen this game before? Okay, Phyllis has. I love it. Phyllis has. This is another game I like to play with my preschoolers. What I did, and I'm going to show you guys, I don't know if you guys can see these, but I took all types of fish and just typed ABC letters on them. And then I cut them out, laminated them, and on the back, I have, you can see that, I don't know if you can see it up close, but I have paper clips on the back, and I taped them on there with some really strong tape. And then I got a dowel, couple dowels with some string, tied the string on there, and then I have magnets. And then each child took turns fishing for ABC letters. And so every time they hung them up, every time they got one, I would say, what letter is it? And they would say C, A, B. But it was a great way of building that letter awareness, letter recognition. All right, so with that, I am now going to turn it over to our friend Cassi.
Thanks, Janeé. I just wanted to add, I love the wiggle worm game, and we would play it in story time all the time. And we would do it not just with letters, but also like with colors or animals for animal sounds. So it really is a very versatile game, which is really fun to play, I think. All right, so my name is Cassi. I am the library director at Antelope Lending Library. So we are a nonprofit, fees-free bookmobile library. And I've been the director there for 10 years. And then I was a youth services librarian at the Solon Public Library for the last 5 years. So I have had a lot of different ways that I've engaged with singing with story times and library programs. All right, can we go to the next slide? Perfect. Okay, so why is singing important in story time? So music expands our vocabulary. Kiddos can be introduced to new words that they would only hear in a song that they wouldn't use in maybe everyday conversation with their caregivers. And we also learn new words when we're talking about music and about musical instruments. So there are lots of new words that we learn around singing. Songs also emphasize the sounds that individual letters or words together make in different ways that when you're speaking, words and vowels can be elongated, or you can have a rhythm that goes with them, which leads me to the next part, how the rhythm breaks words down into their different parts and into the syllables that helps make up the rhythm of our speech when we speak. And perhaps my most favorite part about why we include singing and music in story time is because music is for everyone. I think as adults, we have learned perhaps to become self-conscious about our own singing, about our own musical abilities. But it's really important to remember that music is a part of human life. And so bringing music back in as both a teaching opportunity and also just a way to express joy and connect with other humans is really a beautiful and important thing. Excellent, thanks, Sam. So a couple of ways that you can work to incorporate music into your story times. So classic, of course, are our welcome songs and our goodbye songs. Many of us already do this in our story times. It's a great part of our story time routines. You know, we sit down, we sing our welcome songs. I love that every librarian sort of has their own welcome song that they have crafted to welcome their families to story time. And then same thing with the goodbye song as a way to signal, you know, thank you for coming today. This is the end of our activity. We're so glad you were here. We can't wait for you to come back. All of those things. One thing that I love to do with my welcome and goodbye songs is I use my ukulele and I am not a prolific ukulele player. I know 4 chords and I could probably do the 2 welcome and goodbye songs with even just 2 chords. And it still makes them fun and it introduces kids to a new instrument, talk about instrument vocabulary, right? All of those things that come along with bringing something fun like that into the storytime setting. Something else that I love to do with my story times are theme songs. So I know that themed story times, some people really love themed story times. Some people really do not love themed story times. I love them. They really help me when I'm planning an activity. It helps me kind of focus and pull in things that go together. And so one of the things that I did along with that is each month I would have a theme song that we would sing. So we would sing our welcome song and then our theme song. And that theme song we would sing every week that month. And then when a new month started, then we had a new theme song. And this was a fun way to kind of introduce what it is that we were going to be reading and learning about that month. And it was also another song that was going to get repeated. And so the kids and families would learn it a little bit more than maybe songs that are just sung, you know, one time. And so it's just another way to introduce repetition. Wiggle breaks, of course, are a great way. Oh, I've got a question. Do you have a quick example of a theme song? Yes, absolutely. So one that we did for November is the theme was families with, you know, Thanksgiving happening in November. And so we just took the tune of If You're Happy and You Know It. And it's just if you love your family. And so, you know, we would do the clapping. If you love your family, clap your hands. And then each verse, we just focused on the different people in our family that we were going to talk about that month. So if you love yourself, clap your hands. If you love your siblings, stomp your feet, that kind of thing. So it's really easy to take sort of an existing song and just tweak it for what you want. Or once I kind of got more comfortable with it, I would use a familiar tune and then kind of make up my own lyrics. And that was really fun for me. And no problem. Thank you for asking for a specific example. And if anyone else has questions as we're talking, please feel free to put them in the chat and I'll try to pull from them during the presentation. So that's theme songs. And then wiggle breaks is a really classic example, right? You can tell you don't want the kids to just sit the whole time during story time. That's going to make them frustrated and unhappy. It's going to make you frustrated and unhappy. And so scheduling in some wiggle break songs is a great way to break that up and keep kids and families engaged. I would say any song where kids and parents stand up and move their bodies as part of the song would be a wiggle break song. So like head, shoulders, knees, and toes. That's a great one. I love to do head, shoulders, knees, and toes 3 times anytime we sing it. So the first time we just do it at normal speed. And then the second time we do it really slowly. And then the third time we do it as fast as we possibly can. And that always makes everyone laugh and they have a good time with that. Transitions is another time that you can throw songs in. A classic transition song, of course, is the cleanup song. Clean up, everybody, everywhere. And so that's a great one that you could do if you have passed out props, for example, and then you are turning them back in. Or we would use this at my library a lot when families would come early and play in the play area, and then we would get ready to go into story time. And so we would sing the cleanup song before story time even started to cue all of the kids that story time was about to start, and it was time to put everything away and then move into the meeting room for story time. Oh, let's see. Someone said, every once in a while, I'll do a speed up head, shoulders, knees, and toes. And the kids love it because they never know if this story time is the one we'll do the speed up one. Oh, that's very fun. I like that they know it's a possibility, but it isn't every time. And that's a great approach too. And so then the last thing that you can think about with music, or I guess not the last thing, but the last thing we'll talk about today is props with your music. So you can see some of them here. We've got a little girl with a ukulele, we've got a kid with maracas, and we have a little one who's stomping their feet. And if we go to the next slide, we can look at some more props that you can think about. So a favorite that we had in my story time was rhythm sticks. This kiddo in the picture has actual drumsticks, but you can just use thin dowels or thicker dowels. I've seen some that are about an inch. Those are pretty big, but any kind of sticks that are the same length work great for rhythm sticks. You don't even have to decorate them if you don't want to. In fact, sometimes that's easier because then there are no upset children that they didn't get the purple, purple polka dots or whatever. And those are a really great tool to talk about rhythm and to do different activities with. Something that you can consider is making sure that you do have enough for everyone. Sometimes we would have an unexpectedly large group and I wouldn't have enough rhythm sticks. And so I wouldn't have a set to model the behavior. And so I would just use my fingers as my rhythm sticks. And occasionally we would have kiddos who I would say, oh, your fingers are going to be your rhythm sticks, just like me, because we just didn't have quite enough. So that's a great option. Shaker eggs, you can purchase pre-made shaker eggs that are, sort of industrial and sturdy, which is really nice. But you can also make your own shaker eggs just with those like plastic Easter eggs, and you can fill them with rice or dry beans. And then you just want to make sure that they are sealed really well so that they don't get opened up in the middle of story time and make a big mess. Someone in the comments says they use pool noodles cut into small pieces as rhythm sticks. Oh, that's a great idea. And then you don't have to worry too about the potential hitting factor with the wooden sticks, because that's always something that you want to think about. Speaking of, before you ever hand out props during story time, you want to think about what your expectations are before you hand out the props. So rhythm sticks are a great example. I always have the kiddos, I say, okay, I'm going to hand out your rhythm sticks. And while we're not using them, I want you to put them on your shoulders. And so then we all practice before I hand them out, where I go, okay, now put your sticks on your shoulders. And when they can show me they can do that, I say, okay, great, I'm going to hand them out. When I hand out your rhythm sticks, put them on your shoulders. And so then I hand them out and then they put them on their shoulders. And that is one way that we make sure that there is no hitting happening with the rhythm sticks, and that it also doesn't get sort of out of control before we can do the activity that we're handing the rhythm sticks out for. Let's see, we talked about rhythm sticks, shaker eggs. Oh, parachute. Parachute is super fun. And I don't know about you all, but I know that when I first started doing story times, I actually had a really hard time finding specific songs and activities to do with a parachute. Maybe I wasn't looking in the right places, but I have learned over the years that lots of different kinds of songs can become parachute songs. So the biggest thing to think about is there motion in your song? Can you go up and down? So for example, can you do the parachute pokey where you lift the parachute high, you lift the parachute low, right? Is there a song where maybe you're walking in a circle and everyone can grab a handle of the parachute and walk around in a circle? Is there something where you can take the parachute and make little waves and then bigger waves? All kinds of different ways that you can use the parachute when you start thinking about up and down actions or fast and slow. Oh yes, Phyllis says that she throws bath puffs in there and they do a snowball song. That is a great idea of something you can throw on a parachute. I have like big white pom-poms and we'll use them as snow or as popcorn. We also did a song in October about bears hibernating. And I actually had a bunch of like little tiny, they weren't full-size Beanie Babies. They were like mini Beanie Babies that had been donated to the library. And so each of the kids, I let them hold a little bear. And we tossed the bears on the parachute for the bears were in the cave hibernating. And then we did the song again and the kiddos held on to the bears and they became the mama bears with the baby bears and they were hibernating and they went underneath the parachute and then jumped out at the end. So that one was a really fun one that I was excited to do. Oh, somebody says we do Itsy Bitsy Spider. And they do a lot of lovey songs like You Are My Sunshine with the kids in the middle of the parachute and the caregivers singing to them. I love that. One song we would do a lot of is Colors Over You. Red and yellow, green and blue, these are the colors over you. And so the kids would lay down underneath the parachute and the grown-ups would go up and down and flap the parachute over the top of them. And that was really fun because it got those grown-ups involved because we know sometimes that can be challenging. And it was fun for the kids because they got to go underneath the parachute. That's always the favorite part. We also have scarves that we can use in story time. I love using scarves where you can go up and down. You can also sort of use it in place of a parachute where every kid sort of has their own mini parachute. They can put it on their head. They can throw it up in the air and catch it. You can do different things with different colors. If you have a blue scarf, come to the front. If you have a red scarf, wave it high. And then last but not least, remember that everyone can use their bodies during singing as well. So classic ones are finger rhymes, right? Where you're counting things on your fingers or you're using them in front and then hiding them behind. And something to keep in mind is that you want your songs and actions to be accessible to bodies of all abilities. So for example, I found a song called We All Like to March. Or no, excuse me, it was Everyone Can March is what it was. And I thought, oh, this could be fun. Like we're talking about our bodies and what they can do. But then the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, if I were to have a family come to my story time where their child is in a wheelchair, they can't march. and that feels uncomfortable to say, well, everyone can do this when everyone can't. And so instead, I changed the words to we all like to, and then I left it blank. And so then as a group, when we sang that song, we could decide what do we like to do. And so it was things like we all like to dance, right? And everybody can dance in a different way, or we all like to wave. And then we took turns having each kiddo pick an activity that they like to do, and they got to be the leader for that activity. I also had a kiddo who was coming to story time who was hard of hearing. And so a lot of times when we're talking about music, we talk about how does it sound? Can you hear it? And so I made sure when we were talking about things like that, that we also talked about, can you feel the rhythm? Can you feel the beat? Can you see the rhythm of the song as we're dancing to it? So something to keep in mind to make sure that your story times are accessible and inclusive to everyone. Oh, we've got a comment here. Whenever I bring out a prop, I just let the kids get it out of their system. I always start with the shake bang, wave it fast, shake it slow, shake it high, shake it low, then they're ready to move on. That is also a great approach, Emily. I love that as well. All right, Sam, can we go to the next? Excellent. Oh, we've got one more comment here too. We play red light, green light with props and practice stopping and starting, which makes the regulations and transitions into a game. I love that. Yeah, absolutely. Practicing the different parts of the song or of the actions before you put it all together in the song is a great way to approach it, because then everyone is prepared for, oh, these are things that we're going to do once we start singing all together. All right, I wanted to share some resources with you that I have found really helpful. So Jaybrary on their YouTube channel is an incredible resource for songs and rhymes for LAPSIT programs up through preschool story times. And I have used countless of their songs that they have shared. It's 2 librarians from Vancouver, I want to say, British Columbia. And they have just really excellent songs and a wide variety of things to choose from. There's also, I want to put in a little plug for one of the kernels that I did a few years ago with Angie about using a ukulele in your story time. And so you can check that out if that's something that you have been thinking about, but not quite sure how to approach. There's some helpful information there. And again, I will reiterate that you do not have to be a professional musician in order to do this. And I'm looking at the time and oh my gosh, I'm taking up so much time. I didn't mean to. We'll quickly go through. You can also check out our Solon Digital Story Times to see some of my story times that we have recorded and see how those songs work together. Lakeshore Learning is a great resource for purchasing props like parachutes, scarves, etc. And then of course, Library Talk as a resource to speak and connect with other librarians and ask about what kinds of things they use and what has worked well for them. All right, last slide is just my contact information. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out. And I apologize to all of our other presenters. And I'm excited to hear what they have to share. Thank you so much.
All right, so I stopped the share and Phyllis is next to talk about reading.
Okay, so I love doing story time, and I'm going to be talking about the book part, the reading part that we do at our story times. I feel like our story times are our bread and butter as children's librarians. This is where the magic happens every week. So, and I just want to say I'm still learning new things. I've been doing this since approximately 1987. So it's been a long, but I still am learning new books and new things and tried different things. And my story time now doesn't look very much like how it did even 10 years ago. First thing I want to say is I think it's really important to pick books that resonate with you. Even if a book is one that I rave about or another librarian raves about it being a wonderful book, if it doesn't connect with you, you're probably not going to, it'll show. So I always tell people to pick books that resonate with them really well, because that comes through when you're sharing the book. We each have really different styles and we each approach story time really differently. So some of the books I might be ones that I love, you might read it and go, nah, you know, that's not the book for me. So we all have really different styles and that's okay. So pick books that resonate with you. The other thing is make sure you're not turning pages too quickly when you're sharing books with kids. Pacing, I feel like, is really important in story time. It gives kids time to absorb the pictures. I personally do a lot of give and take during story time, and I've found that when I'm doing outreach and I'm at preschools or daycares, I often have to let the teachers know that because they tend to be on the border the classroom, and they start shushing the kids as soon as they're interacting, and I'll just say, oh no, I want them to interact with me, or no, that's okay, I'm trying to get them to respond. So some of the preschool teachers I've been working with for years kind of know that at this point, but don't be afraid to invite and elicit that interaction with kids, but we don't want them getting shushed by their moms and dads or caregivers or teachers every time we're sharing with them, if you're trying to do that give and take as you share a book with them. Other thing about Storytime I want to say is consider going themeless. We sometimes become slaves to a Storytime theme. Don't choose a mediocre book or books that aren't for the right age group just because they fit the theme. It's okay to have books that don't fit the theme. In fact, I will sometimes say, this book doesn't fit the theme, but I love this one, so I wanted to share it today. So it's perfectly fine to go themeless or to pick books that don't quite match your theme for that day. I know it's good to have a theme sometimes for your planning, to be thinking about what you want to do. And I still have kind of, loose themes, but yeah, I agree with Janeé. It's been really amazing for me to go more themeless. And in fact, sometimes I'll even do today, I'm just sharing recent books I've come across that I just really love. So that was my theme for the day, books that Miss Phyllis loves. Jbrary.com has a really good page on this about more in depth about thinking about going themeless. And I'm going to share different age groups of books. But I do want to say before I get going here, toddlers are the hardest audience. Picking books for my weekly 18 to 36-month-old Storytime group is so tough. My only advice is to keep smiling and don't take it personally when you lose their attention because they're toddlers. And if you come across a book that works well with that 18-month to 2-year-old crowd, please share it with the rest of us, because I am always on the lookout for those books that hit that sweet spot with toddlers, because I just think that's such a tough age group. Okay, so first I'm going to share some baby books with you. I do a baby story time every Monday. I love Anna McQuinn's books. This is Leo, and Leo is more of the baby character in her book. She has Lola as the other character. So I've got Leo Loves Baby Time, which is about going to the library for story time. Leo Can Swim. Another book that I've come across that I really like for baby story time is this Up, Down by Kimberly G. I'm not sure how she pronounces her name, but I found this one works well with babies. And I should say with baby story time, I usually only share one board book. It's one board book, and then everything else I do would be more of like finger plays and songs and things with props. And for babies, for me, I categorize babies as newborns to 12 months. I love Lisa Petroselli's books. So Tooth and Binky are a couple of examples of her books. And these board books always get the parents to laugh too. There's a little bit of humor in there that the parents seem to enjoy. I love these books from Flower Pot Press, these photographic books. This is Watch Me Grow and You Are Amazing Baby. And so there's several more from this Flower Pot Press that I really like. And they often have very inclusive pictures. There's sometimes a child with Down syndrome, and children of all different backgrounds are included in those photographic books. And I really love this one, came out a couple years ago, B is for Baby by Atanuki. So, and I should say, I'm going to have a list for you guys. My all the computers at the library went down yesterday about 4:45, and I lost my Word doc. So I am going to have a list. Next, I want to share some toddler books. So for the toddler group, for me, toddlers is 18 to 36 months. I really love Freight Train by Donald Cruz. Only has about one sentence on a page, and the colors and the kids, the illustrations really portray the motion really well. So kids love this book. Works really well with toddlers. I love this author, Emma Garcia, with Plinka Plinka Shake Shake and Chugga Chugga Choo Choo. and very simple and very rhythmic books. Kevin Hanks has a lot of great books for toddlers. Of his more recent books, I think A Parade of Elephants and Sunflower Lion are really good ones. And I love this Everyone is Yawning book, and it has Lift the Flap for the different animals. So this is a fun, interactive one. And this is one of my favorites to read with toddlers. It's Clip Clop by Nicola Smee. And it's one that's been around for a while, but just love it. And it works every single time with toddlers. And a couple more with toddlers. I really like Lisa Petroselli's books work for toddlers too. So that's why I'm showing you more of these. This Higher one. And then there's Faster. She has a couple of them that are available in hardcover, which I like because then the illustrations are a little bigger. Mary Murphy's another author that I really enjoy for toddlers. So this is Say Hello Like This. I really like the Sebastian Braun's Meow books for toddlers for that age group. Philemon Sturgis has some great ones for toddlers. And then John Butler, this one, You Guess Whose Baby Am I? And it just shows part of the animal and you're trying to guess what animal it belongs to. Can You Growl Like a Bear? Where it's interactive with animal noises. You can't go wrong with animal noises. This is a really old one, but don't forget about things like Paul Galdone, who's been, his books have been around forever. And this Three Little Kittens one works really well with the toddler group. I love Jonathan London's books for toddlers, A Trunk Goes Rattly Bumpa, and Splish Splash Ducky. This one's by Lucy Cousins, and her books, the bright illustrations, and they're always just big and bold. That works really well with the toddler age group. And then I love the Lola books for toddlers. Those work really well. There's several of those. Lola Loves Stories, Lola Goes to School, and this is Lola at the Library. For preschoolers, I love reading preschoolers because you can get a little bit older with your books. And of course, you got to have The Pigeon is a great one. Anything by Mo Willems. I feel like he's replacing Dr. Seuss. Jan Thomas books. I love to read these to preschoolers. Rhyming Dust Bunnies. These work great. The Kindness book. This is anything by Todd Parr. He has a book that I'm sharing at for Thanksgiving this Thursday called The Thankful Book. If you haven't discovered the Jory John books, The Bad Seed, The Cool Bean, these are fun and they even work with a little bit older than preschool. Muncha 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 by Denise Fleming. I love her books for this age group. And of course, Pete the Cat. Can't go wrong with Pete the Cat. I will say, I think the original ones with Eric Litwin are way better than the ones that got continued with just James Dean and his spouse. I think the originals with Litwin, just the wording and the flow of the books are better. And Moo, there you go, Janeé. There's Moo. I love reading this one to kids. And kids will halfway through the story, does this book only have one word in it? Yeah, it's a whole book with basically one word. By the way, he was at an Iowa library. He was at like a Kids First a while ago. And I don't know if you're familiar with this book, but when I went up to him at the end to get my book signed, I said, you need to write a sequel called Ba. And he looked at me and he goes, no, I'm not going to do that. I was like, okay, I thought it was a great idea, but he didn't agree. Okay. So almost done here. I just wanted to share, don't forget about nonfiction books. Like I said, I'm not a slave to theme, but if I am doing a theme, like incorporate one of these really simple nonfiction books like the Pebble Plus, the Abdo Pebble Plus. They're usually just really big, bold pictures and one sentence on a page. I love these books by Diana Hutz Aston. A Rock is Lively, A Seed is Sleepy, and These ones are a little longer, so I probably would do a little bit of just talking about each page and not reading every single detail that's on every page, and that's okay, you can do that. I also love the photographic ones, like especially April Pulley Sayre has some really amazing ones like this, Full of Fall and Bloom Boom. So don't forget to add some really simple nonfiction in with your books that you share. I did want to talk about singing books a little bit. I'm just going to show a couple of them because I don't want to go too far over. This is my signature book. This is Elmo that goes to every story time with me. I forgot him once and got in big trouble with the preschoolers at the Newton School District preschool. In fact, one of the teachers said, Phyllis, you're going to have to be buried with Elmo, which I thought was hilarious. Because so I do this one every time. This is kind of my when I'm done reading, and it's just if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. So they love this one. I wish there were more puppet books like this. I love to do ones like Who Ate All the Cookie Dough, Jane Cabrera's Row, Row, Row Your Boat, and she has several. Wheels on the Bus, Bear Went Over the Mountain, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and then, of course, books like Chicka, Chicka, Boom, Boom, You Can Sing, and Brown Bear, to the tune of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, You Can Sing. And don't worry whether you're a good singer or not. I know that I am not the best singer. My daughter, that's a music teacher, will tell me that my tone is not the best, but the kids don't care. So just sing with enthusiasm and don't worry about it. I did want to show you guys a couple of books with gizmos, anything Lift the Flap, which Janeé touched on this a little bit, but like Peek-a-Moo, Peek-a-Zoo, this book by Peter Horschek, and he has a couple of other books that I think are really amazing. This one just has a pop-up at the end. Books like this get the wow factor from both the caregivers and the kids. And like the Wide Mouth Frog, I love doing this one. I always do a frog story time in the spring. And this one, at each page has a little bit of pop-up. And so this is a really awesome one to do. Some of these are older, but I think you can still, most of them are, that's the problem when you're talking to a librarian like me, who's been a librarian forever. Some of the books might be out of print, but usually you can just buy them. Somebody mentioned your book just got ripped. I personally like those kind of storytime books. I keep them back just for me because they just don't hold up well to check out. Sometimes we'll buy another copy that we have out in the collection, but for those storytime staples like that, I keep them back just for me. The last thing I wanted to mention to you guys is the books with the fourth wall. Excuse my reach. I'm sure that was attractive, me leaning over the screen. The fourth wall books, which is when the reader is interacting with the page. Some of these books are a little tricky for story time, so I always have to really think about how I'm going to do them in story time, because you obviously can't have 20 kids coming up and touching the page. So I'll say like, oh, tap with your finger like this. But I do the actual tapping on the page. But these ones by Tom Fletcher, there's several in this series, are really fun. And then Christy Matheson has some like Tap the Magic Tree and Touch the Brightest Star. Yeah, and somebody mentioned Press Here. Hervé Toulet has some really wonderful ones. So don't forget about those books, because those kind of interactive books I think are really amazing for kids. So that's a quick overview of just some favorites that I have. So if you come across any books that you think are just amazing, let's share them with each other, because that's often over the years how I've heard about a book is when I'm talking to other librarians. So, and I will definitely get my list out to you guys. Sorry that my Word doc crashed, and I'll have that. And if you guys think, oh, she should have mentioned this book, please just, share that info with others. Like I said, you had to keep it here to about 10 minutes. So I didn't want to go too long because I could share books forever. So
we know you could. Hey, I can already tell we're going to run a few minutes over with this one. I understand if people have to go. feel free to hang out as long as you can or catch the recording of anything that you missed. So at this point, we're going to move to write, and this is Rebekah.
All right, we'll see how fast I can get through this for you guys so you don't go over too much. So really with writing, I feel people are intimidated by this. Why is writing important with story time? They're not going to probably be touching a pencil during story time, but really like writing and reading develop at the same time. Like I have here, it's set from Every Child Ready to Read, which is where the Sing, Read, Write, Talk, and Play comes from, is that writing really goes hand in hand with reading, and it helps children learn their letters and their words, and that print and sound correspond with that. So next slide. So we've kind of talked about the Sing, Read, Write, Talk, and Play, but in addition, those kind of can go into 6 other practices, which is print motivation, phonological awareness, vocabulary, narrative skills, print awareness, and letter knowledge. So in writing and story time, we're kind of focusing on print awareness. So they're noticing the print, they're noticing that what is on the page has meaning and relates to words that they're learning. And then into letter knowledge, like ABCs and whatnot. Okay, next slide. Yes, that one. So then it kind of goes into not so much. I think all of the Sing, Read, Write, Talk, and Play kind of all are integrated. So when it comes to anything to do with writing, it's probably going to be done through your singing and kind of your playing if you're doing any like action rhymes and stuff, because we're focusing on our gross and fine motor skills when we're talking about writing. So it's going to be coming through our finger plays and even our action rhymes with our gross motor skills. The gross motor skills or actions help children get a sense of their bodies in space, and large movements can support the larger movement of writing across the page from top to bottom. So I have here on the slide examples of what you can do during story time to work with your gross and fine motor skills. So like I said, finger plays, action rhymes, shake your eggs, scarves, props, and I'll go into a bit more detail in the coming slides. And then after story time, a lot of people take the time to do playtime or craft. And at that point, you can also do more things that focus on these motor skills. Okay, next slide. So I kind of broke it down by age group a little bit. So for infants, it can be 0 to 12, 0 to 18 months. It's important to kind of learn what point your target group is in their development. So when it comes to babies like 0 to 3 months, they can follow things with their eyes, kick their legs, and like reflexively grasp things. And then, so a grasp is a natural movement, but eventually they'll have to like open their hands and then grasp. And so there's something that they'll finally develop into like a pincer grip. So kind of start as a palmer where it's like an open palm and they're kind of grabbing stuff, but not really curling. So the big purpose is we're trying to get a grip so they can get strength in their hand to pick some stuff up. So that the pincer grip kind of starts to develop around 9 months. If you want to do a playtime after baby story time, you can just find developmentally appropriate toys that will help work on that grasp. So you can get like a rattle. I have examples here if we share my slides later. But they don't have to be any special toys. I even put a shower poof up there, like they can explore sensory typed items. And the shower proof has an interesting texture and they can squeeze it and that'll work on their hand muscles. Yeah, next slide. And then toddlers, they're going to be a bit more participative at this point. They won't need their parents to be moving their hands and whatnot. So we have like the waves on the beach go up and down. So you can do this with your body. You can do that with a scarf if you want them. Another song that I really like to do is Open, Shut Them. If they're not good with opening and shutting their hands, they can like use their whole body, like open, shut them. Usually when I'm doing this during story time, I do both at the same time. So I'll do open, shut them to kind of model that movement. A finger play I like is here is the beehive, but where are the bees? Hidden away so nobody sees. Watch and you'll see them come out of the hive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're alive. And if they have like littles, they can like tickle their baby. So that's kind of working on their motor skills on their hands too. Kind of like mentioned with the part where we talk about singing, props are great. So scarves are working on that grasp. Anytime they can cross that center line too, that's really important in their development. So if you're waving your scarf left and right or back and forth, that's really important to their development. I like popcorn kernel a lot. I almost always end with popcorn kernel and then like do a verse of goodbye scarf. So popcorn kernel's like popcorn kernel, I need some. In the pot, shake 'em, shake 'em, shake 'em, shake 'em, shake 'em, shake 'em till they pop. And they really get a kick out of it when you throw something in the air. So I like to always toss stuff around when we're doing stuff with scarves. Shaker eggs are great. One of my favorite songs for shaker eggs is I Know a Chicken by Lori Berkner. Thank you. It is a great scarf song. It's a lot of fun. If you have jingle bells are great. And we talked about self-regulation earlier in this webinar, and Jingle Bells and Stop is a great song for that. So it's like, we'll jingle bell and jingle bell and jingle bell and stop. And that's a lot of fun. I think it may be Miss Carol's song. But I have a link on that slide, which you can get to. Another finger play I really like that I don't think I have mentioned here. I tend to do an action rhyme or a finger play throughout like an entire season of or a period of time for mine, kind of like a theme song that we were talking about. So one that I have is like, I wiggle my fingers, I wiggle my toes, I wiggle my ears, I wiggle my nose, I wiggle my shoulders, I wiggle my chin, I stretch my arms wide and bring them back in again. I wiggle my elbows, I wiggle my knees. And at that point I do like this type of knee wiggle, and they think that's fun. Hop like a bunny and then smile and say cheese. And then it ends with, I usually have them do that twice, but at the end of the second one, then I'll say, now I have no more wiggles left in me, and I sit on the floor as still as can be. And that kind of can get them ready for the next book. So I like that as like a transition. And then after, when I have Sticky Bubblegum, that's also a Miss Carol song. And then I have crafts and activities suggestions for toddlers. Parents seem to be a big fan of sticker scenes because there's like no mess, and it's easy enough for their kids, and it's still practicing like picking things up and gripping. You can just scribble with a large crayon, which I kind of recommend. Like they're a little oversized with that are triangle, so it makes it easier for them to grip. Watercolor painting with large paint brushes, so again a larger paintbrush, they can grip it better. Yeah, sticker scenes are so popular. Like I think the parents would always be content with just stickers like scenes. And personally, like I hate painting just because it is such a hassle to clean up. But it's like one of the best developmentally appropriate things for littles. And it really encourages process art. So I like to do process art. So I usually look at a Pinterest board and see what ideas I can get that, like, what are they tearing apart, and working with their fingers. And I want them to think about more of creating their art than what the end product looked like. One of the things we even stopped doing is showing an example, because a lot of the time the parents get that image in their mind and that's what they want to do. And then sometimes I'll do sensory our motor skills stations and not really a craft. So stringing things, sorting, picking up, felt storyboards, tweezers. Sometimes with babies, you can do sensory stations too. One thing we've done is like having a blanket on the floor and having a cooking pan that their little feet can kick against. So that's always fun to explore. All right, next slide. And then preschoolers, pretty much you can keep doing what you did with the toddlers, but you can do songs that are a little bit longer and more complicated and have more actions. And then this one I added rhythm sticks. Sometimes I'll do rhythm sticks with my toddlers too. But we mentioned clear expectations earlier when you hand them out. The preschoolers are a bit better about handling those. But rhythm sticks are really fun. You can focus on tapping and rubbing and drumming. And those are all different types of grips you kind of have on your little rhythm stick. Parachutes are fun. Again, a lot of it is just focusing on that grip and the motion. And I put more scarves. The Wishy Washerwoman has a little bit more complicated actions, I feel. So it works a little bit better with preschoolers than with toddlers. Yeah, like I said, sensory stuff is great for all of the ages. And with water beads, I know we can get nervous about those going in mouths. So if you can contain it in bottles or plastic bags that have been duct taped, those are always great. For preschoolers, you can probably start having them write their name on a name tag or writing their name on their craft. That and kind of start to focus on actually writing. Coloring sheets, tracing sheets, winding up yarn like on a paper towel tube, toothbrush painting, leaf rubbings. Again, all these things that work on motor skills. And then one thing that you can be doing throughout all of them, you can go to thanks, that's fine, go to the last slide. I think I put it on one of my slides, but I don't recall which one it was. But you can start incorporating American Sign Language into all of your story times, and that's going to work on gross motor skills and fine motor skills for all of your ages. They're going to start to be able to say friend and hello, and maybe they'll be able to do their colors like orange and red and pink. They can't maybe get their hands around it right away, but they're going to be able to start doing like the baby version of those signs. And if you start with them right when they are in an infant or baby story time, by the time, if you're consistent with it, by the time they get to preschool, they're going to be able to do a little bit more of the complex signs. And you don't have to be doing sentences. You can just be introducing vocabulary, just like we do with all of the stuff in Storytime is a lot of vocabulary and background knowledge. So same thing with ASL. And then that's my information right there. So if you have any questions, please email me. All right, I'm all done.
Great, thanks. And Keri, you are you wanted to bring us home with play.
Yes, I will try to keep it as brief as possible since we're all running out of time here. And also with all these 5 skills, a lot of it all ties together. So there's a lot of overlap and repeat too. But with play, I did just want to share a couple of things about why it's so important. And probably many of you already know this, but maybe you're new or maybe it's a new fact for you. That there has been research done to know that it takes about 400 repetitions of an action or a piece of knowledge to create a new synapse in the brain, unless it is done in play, and then it only takes 10 to 20 repetitions. And I just think that is so powerful, and why everyone just thinks what we do is just silly fun playtime, but it's actually the most important work, and it's just helping learning to happen so much faster than trying to just memorize flashcards or anything like that. Plus, it's a lot more fun. So learning with play helps kids put thoughts into words and practice their narrative skills and storytelling sequencing. It helps them develop their body movements and learn shape recognition and color recognition, which helps with learning letter recognition when they get bigger, and all their new vocabulary. So there's lots of ways that have been mentioned with singing and reading stories and doing rhymes to play games. And I was going to do a little survey to have you pick some of the props you'd like to learn most about, because I have a list of like 20 things that you could share during story time. But in the interest of time, I will just say that we have, I have a handout that will come later in the attachments that lists like all those props and the different things. Yes, it's like 5 pages long with all the different rhymes and songs that I like to use with a lot of these props. And so you will get that, but I will just share my one favorite prop before you go that a lot of people, some people have experienced and not everyone has experienced. And for me, that's a stretchy band. Try to, like, you won't really be able to see, but it is essentially a giant rubber band with all the colors like a parachute. And for me, using a parachute was fun, but also not so fun because everyone just that also I would say I mainly used my story time was mainly with toddlers and they just lose their minds with the parachute. So I like the stretchy band because it's still very exciting, but it's not like over the top exciting like a parachute. Like, I don't know, it just seems more containable for me, but still fun. And you can still do a lot of the things. Well, I guess none of the popping things in the middle like a parachute, but you can do a lot of things with it, like wheels on the bus. You can move around and you still get everybody in a circle. Yes, these are from Bear Paw Creek. Which you can also buy from Bear Paw Creek through Amazon if that's easier for your library. As much as I don't like to support the giant corporation, it does make life easier sometimes. So either way, through them directly or on Amazon is where we get these, and then they're washable because it's just like that rubber tubing inside, so you can wash them, which is always nice. And I will just reiterate a couple of tips that everybody else said with their things about setting those expectations before you pass out the props is super important. Modeling what you want to do. Maybe also giving a warning if you're going to do loud props like a drum, because some friends with those sensory issues will want to know they want to cover their ears. Also watching, I'm sure everybody knows this, but also watching out for choking hazards, and that there are different types of bells for those choking hazards, like the regular bells and then the baby-proof bells, that sort of thing. And I also love props in play because, number one, it gets the grown-ups involved. And not all grown-ups just naturally do the things with their kiddos in story time. But when you bring out a prop, even if the grown-ups don't want to, that kid's going to be shoving the prop in their face, and they will be participating. And in fact, they will surprise themselves and have fun. And that is also good. And you hope that that then happens at home too. So yeah, so there's most of my stuff is in the handout. That's the bulk of all the fun things that I had to share is in there, because I know there's so many songs even that I don't know that I always love getting new ones. So hopefully some of those songs and rhymes will be new to all of you and helpful. And I was not very good about watching the chat while I was talking at the same time if there were any questions. Okay, it doesn't look like it. I think we're
No,
okay.
I didn't see any questions.
I think we're good.
I'll just say too, to everyone who's hung out here, thank you for bearing with us here. It's just so much fun. And I messaged Keri that I think we'll get her doing a kernel with all of her props. And maybe Janeé will even have to go in person, and I'll bring the camcorder, and we'll go and we'll get some video of Keri doing all that fun play stuff. And so good. Yes, everyone loves that idea. So Keri, we are on for that. We will figure out how to make the kernel happen, because I know play is like the fun part, right? So all right. Janeé, any closing thoughts as we wrap up this webinar here?
I just want to tell all of our panelists, thank you so much for presenting all of this great information. especially for all the newer youth librarians who are just getting their feet wet and they're just learning how to do story time and how to incorporate play, read, sing, write, talk. You have given such wonderful, wonderful insight. And I learned something new. This is me with a whole bunch of stuff I wrote down. So I got a lot out of it, and I'm sure all the youth librarians, hopefully you guys are all saying it in the chat. Thank you guys so much.
Yes, thank you to our panelists. I was kind of taking attendance as we went through today, so we will get you all checked off in Iowa Learns and watch for an email from them when your CE is ready, your evaluation, excuse me, and the hours will get added onto your account. So thanks everyone for being here today. An extra special thanks to our panelists. I know we started a couple minutes late and went a couple minutes over too, but you guys are troopers. Thanks very much. Stay warm out there. Bye-bye.